Opening in theaters this week is John Woo's newest action movie, Silent Night, and here's my review. The premise and concept of Silent Night holds a lot of potential, as the main character loses his voice, and almost the entire film is done without dialogue. The idea of telling the story entirely through the visuals, especially with a lot of action, could have led to something inspiring and exciting. Unfortunately, the result ends up a surprisingly dull affair, as after a while the movie does not do many interesting things with the gimmick. Even the slight attempts at social commentary fall short in generating interest. A lot of the film is carried by Joel Kinnaman, and he does okay with what's required of him. He has to act the entire movie with only his facial expressions, and he successfully conveys the anger felt by Brian after his son is killed and he plots revenge. Beyond that, there's not much to his character or the other people who populate this movie. Scott Muscodi appears as a detective, but he barely contributes much to the plot and only pops up a few times to remind the viewer he's in the movie. The central villains are stereotypical Latin American gangsters, and that's the extent we find out about them. Their entire purpose is just to incite Brian's anger and eventually avoid getting off by him. There are a few points where it seems like Silent Night will address some serious issues. The main theme initially appears to be a commentary on gun violence, but that then amounts to little. There's also a point where it looks like the film will tackle drug addiction, and then that is discarded. The biggest purpose of the movie is to give the audience some explosive action. There are a few times when John Woo handles those okay, and the lack of dialogue provides something a little intriguing in the first act. However, the film eventually just descends into gunshots and gory scenes with little variation on that theme. While Brian is sympathetic for what happened to his son, there's otherwise little that happens to make one invest in his situation and eventually stopping these criminals. One of the more surprising elements of Silent Night is how little it uses the Christmas setting. There are a few holiday-themed decorations, sweaters, and music cues, but the movie could have been set during any time of year, and little would have changed. There are a few odd editing decisions that take one out of the movie too. Aside from its lack of dialogue, there's little in Silent Night to latch onto. When one thinks of the best action movies, they usually have the audience care about the main character and their predicament. Outside of his tragedy, there's little about Brian that makes him a fleshed-out character, and the endless scenes of him hunting and tormenting the criminals are dull to watch unfold. The action is okay in spots and then boring in others because of how little interest in the story there is. The film is a notable attempt from John Woo to return to Hollywood after 20 years, and one can certainly say he challenges himself with this concept. The final result just ends up an underwhelming action picture.